Greetings and welcome to the Saco School Board meeting for Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. Call this meeting to order at 5:04 p.m. Let the record reflect that all the school board members are present with the exception of School Board Member Gale. And with that, I'd like to invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Next up on the agenda is the approval of the school board meeting minutes dated March 8th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Truman.
I move we approve the school board meeting minutes dated March 8th, 2023.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded by School Board Member Richard. Any discussion? Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie.
Yes.
School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
School Board Member Gale. We are voting on the minutes for March 8th, 2023.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Let the record reflect that School Board Member Gale arrived at 5:04 p.m. Item 4, any adjustments to the agenda this evening? Seeing no adjustments to the agenda, moving on to item 5, correspondence. There was no correspondence in the packet. That brings us to item 6, public comment. If there's any member of the public who would like to speak, please come forward and be heard. Those that have signed up are Holly Trottier, SEA President. Again, for those speaking, please state your name and address into the record, speak directly into the microphone, and keep your comments, please, to 3 minutes.
Good evening. The Saco Education Association respectfully asks the school board to consider the start time of the parent-teacher conferences next year when you are looking at the calendar. You are looking at a draft calendar tonight, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If there's any other member who would like to speak to the school board, please come forward and be heard. With nobody seeking recognition, moving on to item 7 of the agenda, and that's the superintendent's report. Superintendent Ray.
Good evening, everybody. We were here on Monday night, which I thought was a really nice presentation that we had in conversation about the school budget with the council. It's a good starting point for us to all kind of understand the processes, how funding comes in, some of the challenges that we face, and then now beginning to examine how do we get to the sweet spot that protects the programming that we have while at the same time is respectful of the needs of the council and the public, because ultimately the council has a pretty big balancing act that they have to do with their side, our side, and making sure as a community it is something that, you know, everyone can hopefully find some general acceptance or comfortable in as we look at the financial situation that we have. I think what was nice about that meeting is that we were able to talk about what the drivers were and the fact that, you know, this is a budget that is about tuition, this is about salary and benefit increases, and kind of some of the hard realities that all organizations face at this point in time as you're dealing with labor and those increases. Just a reminder for people kind of, I want to say one more finance-related thing. Our finance committee, we just finished meeting, and we are going to do a meeting next Thursday. 6:30 is just got to figure out that time just to kind of start talking about what might be some options that we have in the budget. If you are a pre-K student or an incoming pre-K student, please reach out to the school department and make sure that registration has started. If you are not in pre-K this year, but you're going to kindergarten, please reach out to the schools so that we can have early notification about how many kiddos we're going to have. Certainly, there will be some dynamics in our population and some flux because we expect that our new neighbors will be with us again next year. But certainly those may not be the same children that we see or had this year, because new families will come in. So certainly when we think about class size, that has the possibility of reshuffling the deck a little bit. As we planned for this fall, based off the information, we knew that it was first grade at Young was the place where it was going to be problematic for us. That may be something that we won't know until August. So staff did a great job being flexible with that. But any notification, whether you're a pre-K, K, or if you're just moving to Saco and you want to get a jump start on the registration process, parents sometimes watch school committee meetings, so hopefully if they're thinking about moving to town or are moving to town, they will call the schools. Our spring conferences are just around the corner for parents and for staff, so if you haven't been able to reach out for a spring conference, please contact the school or look at the emails that may have been sent to you from your classroom teacher. And we are about, 3 weeks from April vacation. Reminder that here at the K-12, at the pre-K 8 system in Saco schools, we do not go Thursday and Friday, so our last day is Wednesday. Just a reminder for that piece. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions for Superintendent Ray? With no questions, moving on to item 8, that is the chair's report. Chair Preble.
I don't have anything new to report this evening, but thank you.
Thank you. With that brings us to item 9, staff reports. There are no staff reports in the packet this evening. That brings us to item 10, and that is the board subcommittee meeting minutes. There was a policy and personnel committee. There are minutes in there from March 8th, 2023, and a meeting agenda for April 5th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. Finance and Infrastructure Committee, there was a meeting today, 3:22 at 4 p.m., and as the superintendent just noted, there is a new meeting scheduled for next Thursday, March 30th at 6:30 p.m. And then for the Curriculum Committee, their next meeting is March 27th at 4:30 p.m. That's it for board subcommittee meeting minutes. Brings us to item 11, old business. There's no old business, and that brings us to item 12, new business. Item A is new hires. There was a memorandum in your packet, some requiring no action, and then I think for the stipends, you are requiring action, Superintendent Ray?
No.
No action, okay. So there's a memorandum. Any questions for Superintendent Ray on the memorandum for new hires?
Do we need to do a motion for the stipends?
Superintendent Ray has indicated there's no need to.
Oh, we don't need to?
That
Okay.
should be, those should be appointments.
Okay.
So there's no need for action on that item. If there's no questions, moving on to item B, and that is resignations, which there was no memo in the packet, so that brings us to item C, and that is the 2023-2024 school calendar draft. Superintendent Ray, do you want to start us off?
Sure. And I will ask Meg to come up because Meg did the majority of that work on that.
So for the school calendar, we were able to meet with a committee with a couple of representatives from school board as well as association representatives. I think it's fairly straightforward. Some of the discussion points that we had were around double and triple checking the teacher and student days to make sure that we had the 175 required student days, that we had correctly marked those professional development and new staff days. We are, again, looking at a school start prior to Labor Day, but putting that 4-day weekend in there for the Labor Day weekend. Denoted the conference times in there. Part of the discussion around those conference times related to pushing them slightly earlier, but given the contractual end of the day for Saco Middle School on abbreviated Wednesdays, that would be the official start time if all grade levels were going to remain the same. If we wanted to stagger them so that pre-K 5 started a little bit earlier, that would be one way to do that. The way that we utilize that comp time is to have a consistent 3.5-hour block and then ask teachers to document the other time on their own schedule, with the exception of Saco Middle, which has to have those consistent times with teaming teachers. So they designate an additional night in addition to what's listed on the calendar for approval. We have not put in the asterisks pending snow days that we have in the past because it's a one-for-one trade on snow days. We've found it to be only confusing folks, where if we put those in and then we end up going beyond that, or if we don't. So each day is a one-for-one on snow days at the end of the year. The calendar at present represents 0 snow days, with that end date being June 10th. I'm happy to answer any other questions if there are specific questions about the calendar.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the school board? School Board Member Gale.
I'm sorry, could you just explain a little bit in more detail about the parent-teacher conference? So it sounds like those times were set based on Saco Middle School's teachers' availability and
Yeah, so the idea was to keep a consistent district-wide 3.5 hours, which would represent half of the 7-hour comp time that teachers would be utilizing, and that would be consistent district-wide, which would mean a start time of 4. It does present, I can understand the challenge that presents, because technically there's some time between the end of the contractual day for our pre-K 5 teachers and the start of that conference time. However, for those pre-K 5 teachers, there is another 3.5 hours of comp time that they need to account for parent-teacher conferences outside of that day. So in theory, that could be utilized in that in-between time, that hour, and for some it's 45 minutes, for some it's an hour of time between the end of the contractual day and the start of conferences, if that makes sense.
I think it does. So then I guess a teacher would start their morning, and then go through till 7 o'clock, and using if they're not a middle school teacher, then using the hour break in between the end of the school day and the beginning of the parent-teacher conference, and they would count that towards this comp time that they have to do anyway.
Correct.
But it's, if they're doing conferences, but it's just, okay, it's just making a very long day for
Yep.
those folks rather than staggering it.
Yeah, and it does at present go until 7:30, and I think that's the concern. I think the balance of that is providing those later times for families that don't have the availability during a more traditional immediately after school time, that often those later times are the ones that are needed for two-parent working families or for families that have unusual schedules. So there was a balance there. We did have a good discussion about it, and that's where we landed for now.
School Board Member LaFortune.
So a follow-up. So the time slot's the same time slot that we have in the current year, and the challenge is the abbreviated Wednesdays, since the conference dates that are on the new calendar land on Wednesday as opposed to Thursday and Tuesday last time.
Correct.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us on to item D, and that is a construction update. Superintendent Ray?
Do we, sorry to interrupt.
We
I think
need
we have to do an approval of the
Yes, yes.
calendar.
Is there a motion to approve the calendar?
I move we approve the school board, I move we approve the first reading of the 2023-2024 school calendar.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member Archie, in a tie with School Board Member Preble. And any questions, discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to approve the 2023-2024 school calendar. That brings us to item D, a construction update. Superintendent Ray.
Okay, so we are still full speed ahead on everything construction that we can possibly fit in during a given week. Really trying to move forward on finalization of property. We are working a lot on layout simultaneously, trying to make sure that we're counting classrooms, working with the DOE, doing our best to try to get as many things funded at the state level as we possibly can in all of that piece. I know that Meg attended planning board and a pre-scope DOT meeting this week, and the Department of Transportation meeting requires a lot to be done. We hope to be able to turn in the permit, the application for permit sometime this week. I believe this afternoon we got an email that said they were hand delivering that to the Department of Transportation this week, which means we are continuing to push ahead with that goal of being on the November ballot. There's just so much that has to happen, and sometimes we become the process slows down because of other agencies or other work companies that have employee issues, et cetera, et cetera. But we're still hoping to get on the agenda for May at the state board meeting so that we can move this along. But there's still a lot of hurdles to get over. So we hope to go and have another meeting with the DOE in the next couple of weeks to prepare them for the site application. But it's a very busy time with the construction update.
Any questions on the construction update? No questions. Moving on to item E, and that is a budget update. Superintendent Ray.
So I think I kind of wind up doing a lot of that during my superintendent's report, just highlighting the meeting that we had this week. Again, I think our job now is to meet as a finance group next week to really think about if there were reductions that are needed in that budget, to put some real hard numbers and specifics to what that would look like, and try to kind of map out a plan a little bit so that we can work collaboratively with the council and for, just so that it's clear to the council that if we went in a direction, this would be the end result, so that there's kind of no guessing or it's hard when people start throwing around, loosely like what would this look like or what would that look like when you're in the heart or in the midst of a meeting, and we really need to say, hey, if we had to do this, it would equal this, and just bring clarity to everybody. So our goal is to meet as a finance committee next week to start developing what that process would be so that we can get back to in front of the city council more quickly than having it drag on. I do think that at the end of the month, we will get that upper band or band of what health insurance will come in at. So that's important for us to get, but we probably won't know until the middle of April what our specific school number, community number will be. So as we move towards next week and get that band, let's just hope that that's a tight band and not a wide band.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Ray on the budget update? School Board Member Gale.
Just a quick question / follow-up to one of the comments from one of the counselors on Monday. Just in terms of the employee and kind of the, having something that we can see that shows, you know, what positions are open and what the counts have been like, I think would be helpful and help us with your type of, the discussion about different options and scenarios. And
Yeah, we'll get something very detailed for you guys that says, here's what this looks like, here's what this looks like, here are some other options. Probably put that in a tiered thing, saying, hey, look, this is my recommendation. Certainly you guys will have an opportunity to not go in that direction. But show you kind of what harder costs would be. Try to make it very detailed and easier for you guys.
And actually, just one other follow-up point to the, on the Toddle Inn, so we had a little bit, or there was a little discussion of that on Monday. I know it's still a couple of years out, but it's going to be coming up sooner than we think, and it's a complex knot to untangle. I'm wondering if there's, are we thinking about that as we move forward and not only this, or not in this budget, but the next budget, and then the following one, in case there are things we need to move around or things we need to do in that 1 to 2 year gap between when that lease expires and hopefully when the new school building is there.
Yeah, I've certainly been thinking about those more internally, about, you know, what those cost, what that would look like. You know, clearly part of that discussion becomes transportation. Certainly, if after the 2 years you are not at a standalone situation, that greatly helps transportation issues. But, you know, when I say greatly helps, that just means that we have limited bus drivers, and not having dedicated routes for preschool kids would be less of a burden for our transportation department, and it would decrease ride time. I know that, you know, some of you, Jen, your child's picked up pretty early.
6:30, right on the nose.
That seems pretty tough for a pre-K kiddo. So that has to be, and then obviously space is one of those pieces. Now, when we built some extra space at Young School, there are 4 classrooms sitting there. That solves about half of our problem, if that was to be used. It's about finding where that other space would be that would make sense within the city, make sense transportation-wise. So I think that's some of the work that we have to do, and as we move towards the end of that contract. I think what's a little tough for us is that if we knew our new neighbors were here for a long time, that puts us in one box. If that is only another year or another 2 years, that puts us in a very different box. You know, and as we think about growth within the city, we have a little bit of, we have a much more flexibility thinking K through 2, because with the extra space at Young, one of the worst case scenarios that a family might have would be having a conversation of, you know, would you have to have a couple of kids come to Young School if this side of town at Fairfield got full? The hardest piece is Burns. That there's not a lot of extra space at Burns. So you really would be looking at teachers who may have to move classrooms to do things like that. That is really where we need to go, you know, cross our fingers and hope that there's not a bubble for that school.
Any further questions on the budget update? Moving on to first reading of policies, item F, and that is policy EB, Environmental Health and Safety Program / Risk Management, EBAA, Chemical Hazards, EEAA, Drug and Alcohol Testing of School Bus Drivers, and EBCA, a Comprehensive Health and Safety and Emergency Management Plan. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Johnston.
I move we approve the first reading of policies EB, EBAA, EEAEAA, and EBCA.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Johnston, second by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion on the first reading of policies? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. School Board Member Archie.
Yes.
School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Gale.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to item G, a second reading of policies. Policy CBI, evaluation of the superintendent. DJ-R, Federal Procurement Manual. DJ, bidding purchasing requirements. DJA, purchasing authority. And DJH, purchasing and contracting procurement staff code of conduct. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Johnston.
I move we approve the second reading of policies CBI, DJ-R, DJ, DJA, and DJH.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Johnston, second by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion on the second reading of policies? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. School Board Member Archie.
Yes.
School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Gale.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to approve the second reading of policies. That brings us to item 13, other information. Anyone have anything other this evening? There's nothing in the packet. Okay, moving on. Item 14, there's no executive session this evening. That brings us to item 15. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
School Board Member Truman and then School Board Member Preble, and I think that was a tie on the right side again. Any discussion on adjourning? Roll call to adjourn. School Board Member Archie.
Yes.
School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Gale.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to adjourn at 5:31 PM. Have a great evening, everyone.